On the show tonight, we will get you the latest from the Ukraine-Russia war, and we ask, will Putin negotiate or will he double down on his war effort? And how far is Trump willing to go if Russia refuses to stand down? Also on the show, we ask how Pakistan lost Balochistan after Islamabad faced an unprecedented security crisis with Balochistan at its epicenter. We will also tell you about US President Donald Trump's retreat on call to displace Gazans, with Trump saying nobody is expelling any Palestinians from Gaza. All that and a lot more lined up for you on Gravitas tonight. Let's get you started. On Gravitas tonight, we get you the latest from the Ukraine-Russia war. Russian President Vladimir Putin dons military uniform in Kursk, while US President Donald Trump's envoy Steve Witkoff holds urgent talks in Moscow. But first, let's bring you the latest updates from the battlefield. Ukraine is facing relentless Russian bombings. Waves of missiles and drone swarms have rained down on Ukrainian cities. In response, Ukraine launched its own drone attacks deep into Russian-held regions. But on the battlefield, Ukraine is on the back foot. Putin's surprise visit to Kursk sends a clear message. Russia is not backing down. Meeting his frontline commanders, Putin has ordered an all-out push to destroy the enemy.
To completely liberate the territory of the Kursk region, to restore the situation along the state borderline. And of course we need to think, I would ask you to think in the future, about creating a security zone along the state border. We need to think about this too.
Meanwhile, the Ukrainian forces are clinging to their last strongholds in the face of the rapid advance by the Russian units. With their overwhelming firepower, drone strikes, and reportedly with some North Korean-backed troops too, the Russian forces are slicing through Ukrainian defenses. In Kursk, over 30,000 Ukrainian troops are now encircled. The supply lines are destroyed. Russia has retaken 24 settlements in just 5 days, reclaiming land lost in last year's Ukrainian offensive. The important town of Zudza has also fallen, marking a major blow to Kiev's already crumbling defenses. As Putin ramps up his offense, Trump's administration is pushing for a ceasefire. The US has lifted its suspension of military aid to Ukraine following closed-door negotiations regarding the Ukraine-Russia peace talks in Saudi Arabia. American officials are now urging Moscow to accept a peace deal. But Russia is not impressed with the proposal, which is the 30-day ceasefire proposal. A Kremlin aide warns a ceasefire gives them nothing, while allowing Ukraine to regroup and prolong the war. Moscow insists it will not agree to a truce that benefits Kiev.
Our view is that it's merely a temporary break for the Ukrainian military and nothing else. Our goal is a long-term peaceful settlement, taking into account our country's legitimate interests and well-known concerns. No one needs an imitation of steps toward peace.
Trump, however, is not backing down. In a veiled threat, he has warned of devastating consequences for Russia if the fighting continues. The US president has outlined further sanctions, making it clear that peace is now Russia's responsibility.
Things you could do that wouldn't be pleasant in a financial sense. I can do things financially that would be very bad for Russia. I don't want to do that because I want to get peace. I want to see peace, and we'll see. But in a financial sense, yeah, we could do things very bad for Russia. It would be devastating for Russia, but I don't want to do that because I want to see peace.
Now, with US arms shipments resumed, Ukraine has started retaliating. Kyiv launched 77 drones into Russian airspace, and that's just days after its largest direct strike on Moscow. And the largest direct strike on Moscow happened in the 3-year-long war. Russia claims to have downed them all, but the message is clear: Ukraine is still fighting. As Moscow weighs its options, the world is watching. Will Putin negotiate, or will he double down on his war effort? And how far is Trump willing to go if Russia refuses to stand down? The stakes have never been higher. When Ukraine received US-made F-16 fighter jets last August, it saw it as a potential game changer in the Russia-Ukraine war. But it seems reality has set in. We say that because Ukrainian officials now acknowledge that these jets are no match for Russia's more advanced Su-35s. And alone, it cannot tip the balance in Ukraine's favor. Yuri Ignat, a former spokesperson for Ukraine's Air Force Command, spoke to Ukrainian media and said that the F-16s Kyiv received are outdated and simply not built to compete with Russia's Su-35s in direct aerial combat, adding that Ukraine's fighter jets lack the technology, the weaponry and overall capability to engage with Russia's best warplanes head-to-head. Many of Ukraine's F-16s were reportedly built in the 1980s and the 1990s. While some have received upgrades, they still lack modern radars which allow pilots to detect and engage enemies from much greater distances. Meanwhile, the Su-35 comes with advanced long-range sensors that give Russian pilots a major advantage. Now, weaponry is another issue. Ukraine's F-16s carry the AIM-9 and AIM-120 missiles, which are much shorter ranges compared to the Su-35's arsenal. Russia's Su-35s fire the R-77 and the R-37 meters air-to-air missiles. The latter has a range of over 300 kilometers, while the Ukrainian missiles have a range of around 120 kilometers. This means Russian pilots can strike from distances where Ukrainian pilots can't even detect them. Unlike the F-16, which reportedly relies on conventional aerodynamics, the Su-35's engines allow it to perform extreme aerial maneuvers. So in a dogfight, this gives Russian pilots a massive edge. The Su-35 also has a longer combat range, allowing it to operate deeper into enemy airspace without refueling. Even with these disadvantages, Ukraine still hopes to make use of the F-16s. But officials admit that they need an entire network of air defense systems, electronic warfare tools, and support aircraft to stand a chance against Russia's superior air fleet. And standalone, F-16s will not cut it. This means Ukraine is using the F-16s just for air defense, for taking down drones and cruise missiles rather than engaging Russian jets in direct combat, or simply for patrolling. As you can see on your screens, the visuals right now, these are recent visuals of F-16s hovering over the skies in Ukraine. Beyond technology, another challenge is sheer numbers. Ukraine has only received around 20 F-16s from allies like the Netherlands and the Denmark. Russia, on the other hand, has far more Su-35s. It is estimated that Moscow has at least 100 Su-35s in its arsenal. Meanwhile, apart from all these challenges that I've listed down, training is also an issue. Ukrainian pilots trained in Europe and the US are still adapting to these Western jets after years of flying Soviet-era MiGs and Sukhois. Meanwhile, Russian pilots have years of experience flying the Su-35, and it has extensively been used in combat against Ukraine. As you can see in these images, the Su-35 has also been used in the Syrian civil war. And just to put the comparison in numbers, the F-16's top speed is about 2,400 kilometers per hour, while the Su-35 reaches 2,700. The F-16's combat range is around 900 kilometers, while the Su-35 nearly doubles that at 1,600 kilometers. The Su-35 also carries more weapons, weighs more, and has a larger wingspan, which enhances its stability and control. So what does all this mean for Ukraine, the F-16 that it has compared to Russia's Su-35? It means that the F-16s, while an important addition, will not be enough to challenge Russian air superiority. Has Pakistan lost Balochistan? We ask you this question because Islamabad is facing an unprecedented security crisis and Balochistan is at its epicenter. A seemingly routine journey turned into a nightmare when the Jafar Express carrying over 400 passengers between Quetta and Peshawar came under attack in the rugged mountains of Balochistan a few days ago. Heavily armed separatists from the Baloch Liberation Army ambushed the train, forcing it to stop before storming it and taking passengers hostage. For more than 24 hours, Pakistan's security forces engaged in a tense standoff with the Baloch rebels. The Pakistan military's media wing said that the ordeal ended with the deaths of 33 attackers and 21 passengers. 4 paramilitary soldiers were also killed. Now, this was not an isolated event. Recently, Pakistan has been battered by a surge in suicide bombings, targeted assassinations, and sophisticated assaults. And all this on its military bases and mosques. According to experts, the escalating violence and the sheer audacity of the attacks by the separatist groups, it has exposed Islamabad's weakening control over Balochistan. The Global Terrorism Index 2025 now ranks Pakistan as the second most terror-affected country in the world. Terror-related deaths in the country spiked 45% in 2024, reaching 1,000, while attacks more than doubled from 517 to 1,000. So what's exactly fueling this crisis? Well, according to reports, domestically banned outfits like the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan and Baloch separatist groups have stepped up their offensives, exploiting the nation's economic turmoil and the political instability since the ouster of former Prime Minister Imran Khan in 2022. The attacks by all these groups have been relentless. On March 3rd, a woman BLA suicide bomber targeted a security convoy in Balochistan's Kalat, killing a paramilitary soldier and injuring 4 others. Just weeks before, the Baloch Raja Ajar Sanghar, which is an umbrella coalition of Baloch insurgent groups, blockaded major highways to cripple the state's economic and military interests. And then, on February 19th, the BLA executed 7 laborers traveling by bus to Lahore. The BLA and the Baloch Liberation Front have ramped up their attacks since last year. Their targets? It has primarily been security forces, infrastructure and foreign investments. The Global Terrorism Index says that the insurgent strikes jumped from 116 in 2023 to 504 in 2024. While fatalities increased from 88 to 388, that's a massive jump. The deadliest attack in 2024 occurred in November. That's when a BLA orchestrated suicide bombing at Quetta railway station killed at least 25 people, including security personnel. Meanwhile, foreign nationals are also under fire. Chinese workers and projects under the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor (CPEC) are the prime targets, with the BLA group mulling them as symbols of economic exploitation. According to experts, the attacks on Chinese engineers, embassies and infrastructure reflect the BLA's broader strategy of destabilizing foreign investments, in an attempt to force the world to pay attention to their cause. Beyond the battlefield, the BLA has also expanded its media reach, publicizing its narrative through documentary-style videos. Take a look at these visuals on your screens right now. This is the BLA's media wing footage. It shows the exact moment when the militants attacked the Jafar Express and took the passengers hostage. According to Pakistani experts, between 2018 and 2024, the group released 89 videos. 41% of these focused on combat operations. The BLA has also started incorporating Urdu and English subtitles to expand its audience reach beyond Pakistan. According to experts, the attack on the Jafar Express represents more than just another incident. It signals a shift in BLA tactics. The insurgents are employing more sophisticated and aggressive strategies to paralyze state infrastructure. Till recently, buses were used for ambushes where passengers were dragged off and executed. And as a result, many civilians turned to train as a safer option. But even they are no longer secure and safe. In fact, the train services in Balochistan had only resumed in October after a 2-month suspension following multiple attacks on railway tracks. With Pakistan struggling to contain this insurgency, the pressing question is, has Pakistan already lost control of Balochistan? Because Islamabad may soon find itself grappling with a full-scale insurgency that it can no longer suppress. It looks like poor Donald Trump will not be getting a golden statue in Gaza anytime soon. The US president has made a sharp U-turn on one of his most controversial proposals after weeks of pushing for a US-led takeover of Gaza and even suggesting that Palestinians should be permanently removed. Trump has now said that nobody is expelling any Palestinians. Take a listen.
Nobody's expelling any Palestinians.
Now, this perhaps surprising shift came during a meeting at the White House with Ireland's Prime Minister Michael Martin. His earlier statements about removing Gaza's population seemed to be no longer on the table. But why this sudden change, this swift change by Trump? Was it realization that his plan was unrealistic, or just another instance of Trump saying what suits him in the moment? Remember, just last month, Trump floated the idea of a complete displacement of Palestinians in Gaza to Egypt or Jordan, and Hamas welcomed Trump's remarks calling on Washington to ensure that Israel abides by all terms of the ceasefire agreement. Egypt, which shares a border with Gaza, also welcomed the shift. The country's foreign minister described it as a step towards preventing further humanitarian catastrophe and finding, and I'm quoting here, fair, sustainable solution to the Palestinian issue. And let's not forget Trump's vision for Gaza. Just weeks ago, he shared an AI-generated video of a futuristic Palestinian enclave. rebranded as Trump Gaza. The 33-second video showed towering skyscrapers, families playing on beaches, and American dollars raining from the sky. And in true Trump fashion, the grand finale, a massive golden statue of himself, gazing down at the people of Gaza. But that fantasy seems to be fading fast. No golden Trump statue, no US takeover, just another dramatic reversal from a man who loves the spotlight. Let's tell you what else is lined up for you on Gravitas tonight. We will get you the latest from West Asia, where the Israeli army has struck a residential building on the outskirts of Syria's Damascus. We ask tonight, is Syria potentially looking at a war, and can West Asia survive another conflict? We will also tell you what is happening in Argentina, where demonstrations have broken out both on the streets and in parliament. We will get your story from Zimbabwe, where a man called Bombshell has fired up Zimbabwe's succession battle and is now challenging the incumbent president. Shifting focus to West Asia, where conflict seems to be escalating by the hour. And in the very latest, the Israeli army has struck a residential building on the outskirts of Syria's Damascus, killing at least one. As per the Israeli military, this is the same building which acted as a command center of the militant group Palestinian Islamic Jihad. In a 9-minute video released by the Israeli Defense Forces, it shows how the military captured the purported airstrike. It also showed an explosion at the edge of a building, followed by thick plumes of smoke. The Israeli military released video showing strikes on military sites of the former Assad regime in Syria as well. Earlier, Israel's defense minister confirmed that Israel struck 40 military targets overnight in the southern part of Syria. This comes days after Syrian government-linked forces killed hundreds of civilians in a series of revenge attacks. On Wednesday, the Israeli army claimed that 22 fighter jets took part in an attack on southern Syria when it launched more than 60 shells. In a statement, the IDF said, and I quote here, Israeli Air Force fighter jets carried out airstrikes on dozens of targets in southern Syria on Monday, unquote. And it also cited alleged future threats as reason behind the strikes. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warns that anyone who threatens Israel will not be spared.
This morning, we attacked an Islamic Jihad headquarters in the heart of Damascus. We did this because we have a clear policy. Whoever attacks us or plans to attack us, we attack them.
Well, as per the Israeli military, the strikes were carried out in multiple waves, targeting approximately 16 sites in total, which included command centers, tanks, weaponry, radar systems, and other intelligence gathering equipment. According to Israeli media, the attack has been touted as the largest operation carried out by the Israeli army in Syria since the wave of strikes following the fall of Bashar al-Assad's regime. Also, just a few days ago, Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz said that the Israeli army is preparing to stay in Syria for an indefinite period. On the other hand, the Syrian state media had said Israel hit the southern province of Dara, with a war monitor reporting at least 17 strikes in positions of the former Syrian army. Just for context here, after the fall of Assad's regime in December, IDF forces entered the demilitarized zone between Syria and Israel in an attempt to establish a defensive line to protect Israeli settlements near the border. Just last month, Israeli newspaper Haaretz published satellite images revealing that the IDF had established at least 7 new outposts in this zone. From the Syrian Golan Heights in the north to Tel Qudna in the south near the border area of Israel, Syria and Jordan. So IDF has clearly established 16 defense outposts there, and that's not all. Following the Assad regime's collapse, the IDF estimated that it had successfully destroyed about 80% of Syria's strategic military capabilities in over 250 strikes carried out over several days. And how were these attacks executed? Mostly, they were airstrikes, which led to the destruction of much of Syria's air force infrastructure and its assets. And this would also serve not just one but 2 purposes. As it would aid future attacks on Iran's nuclear facilities, well, from the looks of it, Israel appears to be in a war mode. And going by the scale of attacks, there's no stopping it anytime soon. Now the question is, with IDF's rapid and steady conquest, is Syria potentially looking at a war? And can West Asia survive another conflict? Coming days will reveal more. Indian stocks have taken a beating since hitting record highs in September. The Sensex index has crashed over 4,000 points since its peak and erased investor wealth to the tune of more than 40 lakh crore rupees. However, global brokerage firm Morgan Stanley sees Indian stocks as an attractive bet. The country's benchmark indices have been making history for the wrong reasons. The blue chip Sensex index has crashed 17% or over 12,000 points, and the broader Nifty index has plunged about 18.5% or nearly 4,100 points. Since their record highs late September, the sell-off has left investors reeling with nearly a fifth of their wealth wiped out since September. Last month, the Nifty marked its worst losing streak since its birth some 29 years ago. The index also recorded its worst February month since COVID-19, with a 6% loss. Still, Morgan Stanley expects Indian stocks to recover lost ground against peers through the rest of 2025. The brokerage firm anticipates a stock picker's market emerging in India, with fundamental shifts yet to be fully priced in. Well, according to Morgan Stanley, India's earnings growth is improving even under conservative forecasts, while valuations are the most appealing since the COVID-19 pandemic. Morgan Stanley highlights India's policy stability compared to major global economies, making it a strong market amid global macro uncertainty from Trump's tariff rhetoric. Well, unlike the macro-driven trends post-pandemic, it sees stock selection driving returns in this phase. Looking ahead, the brokerage expects India to expand its share in global output over the coming decades, backed by macroeconomic stability and also improved infrastructure. Well, our next story is from Argentina, where at least 15 people have been injured and more than 100 arrested. That's after football fans and retirees clashed with the police in the country's capital, Buenos Aires. The reason? Argentinian President Javier Milei's economic policies. The demonstrations have been going on for a week in Argentina. The retirees have been gathering each week to demonstrate against cuts to their pensions. But the demonstrations took an ugly turn, an aggressive turn, when football fans from more than a dozen Argentina soccer clubs joined them. And in an unlikely mix, the retirees and the fans from top soccer teams like Boca Juniors and Racing joined forces to demand improved pensions and reversal of cuts to free medications. Riot police in Buenos Aires used tear gas, rubber bullets and water cannons to disperse the demonstrators. While all this was happening on the streets of Argentina, a brawl erupted in the Argentine Congress over a crypto scandal. The altercation broke as lawmakers debated the need to investigate the cryptocurrency scandal linked to Argentine President Javier Milei. Tensions rose when opposition parties pushed for an investigation for a probe, provoking outrage among the ruling party allies. Physical altercations followed among the legislators, who included Oscar Zago from the opposition party and Lisandro Almiron from the ruling party. The return of the two astronauts from the International Space Station has been delayed once again, and that is due to a small malfunction in the spacecraft. It highlights the larger story about NASA and the image of American space dominance. Once a beacon of global ambition, NASA today is threatened by budget cuts and reliance on private entities. Our next story telling you more.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. We have a liftoff.
Over the decades, NASA has put men on the moon, dominating the global space race.
Yes, indeed. They've got the flag up now, and you can see the stars and stripes.
But today, it is a shadow of its former self. NASA's ambitious Artemis program, that will mark its return to human flights to the moon, has faced inordinate delays. The agency first promised a lunar landing by 2024. It has now pushed the date back to at least 2026, if not later. Costs have ballooned past $93 billion, with still no guarantee of success. NASA doesn't even own rockets anymore. Its space shuttle was retired in 2011, leaving the U.S. dependent on Russian Soyuz capsules for nearly a decade. Since then, it has outsourced human spaceflight to private companies like SpaceX and Boeing. Starlink dominates satellite launches, while Boeing is struggling to prove its Starliner's reliability. In yet another setback, SpaceX has delayed the launch of NASA's 4 Crew 10 astronauts, less than an hour before the crew were due to blast off into space, which means Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore, who are stuck aboard the International Space Station for over 9 months, will have to wait a bit longer for their return to Earth. This once again exposes the fragility of NASA's commercial crew program and its limited contingency options.
Liftoff of the mighty Delta IV Heavy rocket with NASA's Parker Solar Probe, a daring mission to shed light on the mysteries of our closest star.
Under President Donald Trump's plans to cut government spending, the space agency could be in for more trouble. According to reports, NASA could face an approximately 25% budget cut as China and India accelerate their space program and private companies redefine the industry. NASA risks becoming irrelevant, marking a cautionary tale of institutional decline and squandered potential at the final frontier.
All right, moving on, there is a political battle gaining momentum in Zimbabwe. A man called Bombshell, who was a part of the ruling party itself, is challenging the incumbent president, Emerson Mnangagwa. Mnangagwa is commonly nicknamed Crocodile, originally from the name of the guerrilla group he founded and later because of his own political shrewdness. Going by the name of Bombshell, Blessed Giza is a war veteran who is speaking out against Emerson and is pushing for the president to step down. The ZANU-PF party expelled Giza last week for his statements. The senior leadership of the ruling party has accused him of indiscipline and also fostering factionalism. Bombshell Giza began his issue against the president after the latter announced his intention to retain power for a third term. Zimbabwe's constitution allows a leader to only serve 2 terms, and Mnangagwa's second term ends in 2028. Bombshell has accused the president of corruption and trying to hold on to power for all the wrong reasons. Giza is the leader of a faction that consists of ex-combatants like him who say that corruption in Zimbabwe frustrates them, and the group that once supported the president now blame him for it. On to the US now, where Trump's anger is making headlines yet again. What for? We all know what happened last time when Trump got angry. I am talking about the famous, or if we can say the infamous, spat with the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at the Oval Office, following which Zelensky was told to leave the White House. And this time, yet another global leader found himself at the receiving end of the US President's wrath. We are talking about Irish Prime Minister Michael Martin. But why is that? We'll get into that in just a bit, but first, here's what happened. On Wednesday, Trump hosted the Irish Prime Minister at the White House for the annual St. Patrick's Day celebration. Trump claimed that Ireland was among the countries benefiting from the United States, to which Martin responded, highlighting Ireland's positive contributions to the US. Trump also expressed his desire to address the trade imbalance between the two countries, while taking a dig at the European Union, which Ireland is a part of, for treating the US badly. Now, some of these remarks made by Trump were only mildly challenged by Martin, adding that Ireland was stepping up investments in the US. So this is what happened so far, but here's where things got tricky.
The EU was set up in order to take advantage of the United States.
Including Ireland? Is Ireland taking advantage of the US?
Of course they are. I can't, I have great respect for Ireland and what they did, and they should have done just what they did. But the United States shouldn't have let it happen. We had stupid leaders. We had leaders that didn't have a clue. Or let's say they weren't business people, but they didn't have a clue what was happening. And all of a sudden, Ireland has, our pharmaceutical companies and other, this beautiful island of 5 million people has got the entire U.S. pharmaceutical industry in its grasp.
Well, as things grew tense, a perfect distraction came in the form of Vice President J.D. Vance's socks. That, having caught Trump's attention, earned a fair bit of praise from the US President. Like I mentioned earlier, the dressing down of the Irish Prime Minister came weeks later. Ukrainian President Zelensky was reportedly grilled by Trump and Vance in the White House, and that's over Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and Zelensky not being thankful enough of the US aid provided to the war-torn country. But the bigger question right now is, why is Trump losing it time and again? You see, of late, Trump has been clashing with both American allies and rivals over trade and imposing high tariffs on imports from various countries, including Canada and China. And from the looks and sound of it, Trump shows no signs of changing course on tariffs. In fact, Trump suggested that steeper tariffs might be in the cards in the coming days. And in the case of Ireland, Trump's list of issues did not just end quite yet, as he complained about many US pharmaceutical companies moving to Ireland because of the country's favorable tax policies. And what did the Ireland Prime Minister do? For most parts, Martin did manage pretty well with calm and humor. But as Trump's passive-aggressive streak continued, props to Martin, but cues to other leaders for bracing themselves from fireworks in future. I have a question for you. Is marriage equal to gain weight? Research says yes. While the chances of piling on the kgs increase for both the genders after marriage, but a new research by scientists at National Institute of Cardiology in Warsaw suggested that women's risk of being overweight is 39% higher than that of men's, which is 62% higher when compared to those who are not married. However, the research adds that married men are 3.2 times more likely to be classed as technically obese than their counterparts. Than their unmarried counterparts, that is. But there was no added obesity risk for married women. A doctor at the institute suggested women cannot accept living with obesity and they are most likely to take measures to lose weight. The study, which looked at 2,500 Polish people, typically aged 50, also found getting older increased the risk of becoming heavier in both sexes. It said each extra year increased the risk of being overweight by 3% in men and 4% in women, and the risk of obesity by 4% in men and 6% in women. Depression or poor health knowledge also had a major impact on the risk of women becoming obese, but this was not found in men. Should children be given smartphones? Some would say that phones help children to stay safe. Others will argue that phones lead to excessive screen time, which causes issues with mental health, body image, cyberbullying and online predators. Which is why Australia and several US states like Florida, Indiana and California are banning smartphones in schools. In the UK too, parents are demanding a smartphone-free childhood for their kids. And UK stars Benedict Cumberbatch and Paloma Faith have also voiced their support for this movement. According to the UK communications watchdog Ofcom, nearly 25% 5 to 7-year-olds in the UK own a smartphone. By the age of 11, 9 in 10 children in the UK own their own phone, which is different from shared family devices. And around 50% children under 13 are already on social media. Driven by worries about the impact of smartphones on children's brain, this is what led to the birth of the Smartphone Free Childhood campaign in the UK. Last September, the campaign launched a parent pact urging parents not to give their children smartphones till they are 14 years of age and to make sure that their kids are off social media till at least 16 years of age. In just a few months, the pact has garnered over 100,000 signatures out of the 32,000 registered schools in the UK. So far, over 11,500 schools have signed the pact, including famous UK personalities like actor Benedict Cumberbatch, singer Paloma Faith, former football player Jamie Redknapp, and singer and TV host Milan Klaas. Last week on March 7th, the Safer Phones Bill, a private member's bill from Labour MP Josh McAlsty, which aimed to raise the age of digital consent to 16, was watered down to gain government support. The bill now focuses on government research of the issue rather than immediate legislative change. Well, something strange is reaching us from deep space. Every 2 hours, a pulse of radio waves ripples through the cosmos, baffling astronomers. Our next story explains how, after years of mystery, scientists have pinpointed the source, an object unlike anything seen before. Take a look.
A cosmic heartbeat. A signal from the void. A rhythm that defies explanation. Every 2 hours, a pulse of radio waves echo across the vast expanse of the Milky Way. It is a persistent and perplexing enigma. For a decade, scientists have been baffled by these mysterious signals. Many wonder if it is an alien signal from an unknown world. Now, the veil of mystery is lifting, revealing an unprecedented source. Armed with advanced telescopes and boundless curiosity, astronomers have traced these rhythmic pulses to a binary star system. A celestial dance of two stars locked in a close embrace, approximately 1,600 light-years away. This system, comprised of a white dwarf and a red dwarf, generates radio waves as their magnetic fields collide during their rapid 125.5-minute orbit. This is not a typical fast radio burst. The intense fleeting blasts that originate from magnetars, this signal is slower, more deliberate, and a steady, repeating pulse. The discovery published in the Nature journal challenges existing theories about the origins of long-period radio bursts. Previously, these signals were attributed solely to neutron stars. This binary system, however, presents a new paradigm, suggesting that other celestial phenomena can produce similar emissions. The intricate dance of these two stars with interacting magnetic fields generates a unique radio signature, a cosmic fingerprint. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
On to Italy's Naples now, which has been rocked by a massive earthquake, reportedly one of the worst in the region for 40 years. The 4.4 magnitude earthquake has created widespread fear and panic, forcing residents to sleep on streets. Meanwhile, this has also sent major tremors to Italy's restaurants, as it marked a slide in their day-to-day business. And just to pick things up, owners have come up with a unique plan, that of offering earthquake discount. Yes, you heard that right. They've come up with a plan called earthquake discount to the diners. An overnight quake in Naples turned into a nightmare for the residents as it shook buildings, cut power, and drove frightened locals out of their homes to spend the night on the streets. Even as per Italy's National Institute of Geophysics, the magnitude of the earthquake was just 4.4. The impact was quite big. A huge roar preceded the tremors, and the earthquake lasted for about 20 whole seconds. Not just that, several minor aftershocks were felt in the region as well, creating panic and fear. While no fatalities have been reported so far, it caused many to be on their guards, especially with tremors persisting for 2 hours after the quake. So much so that fearsome locals are barely getting back on with their normal life, such as going or eating out. And this had restaurant owners on their edge, who are scrambling now for ways to retain diners. And as a last resort, restaurants in Italy's Naples are offering free and discounted meals. But here's the deal. These can only be availed by those who stay until the last meal, even as the ground shakes beneath their feet. These limited time deals are being offered in Pozzuoli, which experienced a record 1,800 tremors just in the month of February. However, this is not a new phenomenon per se, as the latest bout of tremors started in 2006 and is only growing in frequency and intensity, and hit a magnitude of 4.4. However, as per experts, a major eruption in seismic activity soon is unlikely, which means residents can slowly learn to live with it. And plus, there's a bonus, that of a free meal, a rare event in today's day and age. Elon Musk's time in the White House since Trump's inauguration has been anything but smooth for Tesla. Over a month after Trump's inauguration, and with Musk now at the helm of the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, like we've known, Tesla's fortunes have reversed, with the stock down about 40%. Now, a Morgan Stanley survey shows that a majority of investors think that the world's richest man's political activity is hurting Tesla. According to the survey, about 85% of investors polled think that Musk's political engagement is affecting Tesla's business. Some are more concerned about his focus on government affairs at the possible expense of time spent on Tesla. While Tesla's shares jumped on Wednesday as tech shares and the broader market rallied, The EV firm's stock was on track to decline for the 8th week in a row. That's since Trump took office. The stock has had a rough start in March, extending its deep losses from February. Shares plunged 28% last month, marking the steepest drop since December 2022. Adding to Tesla's challenges, new U.S. tariffs on imports from Canada and Mexico, where key Tesla suppliers operate, and all this could impact costs and production. Goldman Sachs experts lowered their forecast for Tesla's current quarter sales after steep falls late last year. The question doing the rounds is, does Musk want a break? Musk's workload across Dodge and his companies, including Tesla, SpaceX and X, have raised concerns about his ability to manage them all effectively. The world's richest billionaire admitted that he is juggling Dodge and his other businesses with great difficulty. And the backlash does not seem to be limited to just his business.
We're an equal branch of government. And you start off with a blather, and yet when we look at the empty seats here, where's Elon Musk? I'm sure he's a genius and is a very credible person because of the wealth he's accumulated. But that does not put him above the law or the responsibility to come before this committee in this Congress. If he's so great, if these plans and all the fraud and abuse that he found are so evident, why isn't he here explaining it? You know why. Because he's out to privatize Social Security. He's been on television the last couple of days talking exactly about Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, and what he intends to do. Privatize it. The American people, some of them may have been born at night, but not last night.
And that's all that we could pack for you on Gravitas tonight. But before we slip into a very short break, we leave you with Gravitas World View. Thanks very much for staying with us. You are watching WION World as well. Stay tuned.
General Brice Oligui Nguema, the strongman of Gabon since the 2023 coup that overthrew the Bongo dynasty, submits his candidacy for the April 2025 presidential election. In a remote Maasai community in Kenya, young girls are learning more than just academics. They are training to stand up for themselves. And a Nigerian mother turns her crochet passion into thriving footwear business. Watch World of Africa at these times on WION. World is One.
As the world gears up to celebrate the Festival of Colors, we get you a list of films you can watch on Holi. Find out all about the record-breaking Chinese film Lisa 2. Get a glimpse of the recently concluded Mughal-e-Azam the musical. All this and much more with me, Diksha Bisla, on WION eClub at these times.
This week on Check It Out. We take a look at London's phone theft epidemic. We also show you how drones are transforming emergency communication system. And we tell you about a new age technology that is driving the future of connected cars. This and more on WION World is One at these times.
What do you think about the tokenization of this program?
I think it's very innovative, tokenizing their own show.
We want as many people as possible to have a go, experience it, set up a wallet.
I think it's a fantastic opportunity to open up a wallet, understand what it is to have the fractionalization of something.
Dive into the world of tokenization with me on Token Money Magnet, only on WION.
This week on the West Asia Post, Iran rejects nuclear talks with the US, accepts China's initiative for trilateral talks alongside Russia. After clashes in Syria leave over 1,000 dead. Ahmed al-Shara reaches a deal with Kurdish authorities to achieve nationwide ceasefire. Also on the show, protests erupt across US campuses as the Trump administration seeks to deport pro-Palestinian activists.
Watch the West Asia Post with me, Ghadi Francis, only on WION World is One.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in. Imagine a world where owning your dream asset is just a click away, where wealth is no longer exclusive to the few. Tokenization, the game changer transforming assets into digital opportunities. A revolutionary technology opening doors to a new era of investment. Don't miss Token Money Magnet, a bold initiative by Kalp Foundation. Only on WION World is One.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
Hello and welcome. You're watching WION World is One. My name is Mohammed Saleh, and let's start this broadcast by taking a quick look at what is making headlines at this hour. The Russian President Vladimir Putin thanks the American President Donald Trump and the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi for their attention to the Russia-Ukraine conflict and asserts that while Russia is in favor of a 30-day ceasefire, any Ukrainian settlement must address the root cause of the conflict and lead to long-term peace. He's also added that Russia is in complete control of Kursk and says that the Ukrainian troops have two options in the region, either to surrender or to die. The presidents of Russia and Belarus condemn what they call the aggressive and confrontational nature of the EU policy towards Russia and Belarus. The joint statement says that NATO's actions in the context of the Ukrainian crisis are hostile and destabilizing and